Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the final session. Let's get started in 3 to 4 more minutes, hoping more people can join us in. In the meantime, if you guys have any questions, please pop them through the chat box. I guess we can get started then. Welcome back, everyone. Final session communicating to the customer. It went by really quickly, though, isn't it? I feel like it went by really, really quickly. You did get a good break in between, but yeah, pretty quick. We're already in the mid of March. It's crazy. Before we get started, anyone has any questions, any doubts you'd like to share? Okay, if not, let's get started. Today we're looking at how advertising works and how marketing communication works and how can we create a creative brief. We'll look at a few best practices for increasing persuasion in our communication and also how a good creative brief can produce a really successful campaign that people remember for years to come. So, when we're talking about marketing, branding, marketing communication, um, we generally want to ensure that our through marketing, through branding, through marketing communication, that our brand becomes one of the most trusted brands in the world. And of course, you become a trusted brand when you really care for your customer, those customers who you understand at a deeper level than just who they are. You understand why are they taking those decisions, what are their values, attitudes, and lifestyle, and you can create that really detailed customer persona that we looked at back few lectures back. Now, when this particular study was done by Roy Morgan about 10 most trusted brands and 10 most distrusted brands, Optus was one of the most distrusted brands because of a lot data leak. Data leak that happened with their organization, and obviously your sensitive data of customers was leaked, so it made one of the most distrusted brand that you don't have, they didn't have the right infrastructure to protect that. Whereas Bunnings Warehouse, which is a store in Australia where you can get almost anything related to your house, indoor, outdoor, every single thing. Now, Bunnings, especially during COVID 19, went above and beyond to provide services to customer. They were open for longer hours, there was direct to boot services. So essentially, they ensured that customers' satisfaction was their prime priority. And they ensured that whatever they did, that was their focus. That is what made them one of the most trusted brands. Now comes Woolies and Coles. Woolies and Coles are supermarkets in Australia. They were the most trusted brands, and they became the most distrusted brands because the practices that they engaged in respect with respect to the pricing of products. So essentially, if a product is for $5, they would increase the price to $6 and then discount it to say that, oh, this product is now discounted, and the after discount it would cost you $5.30. So it actually costs you more than the original price. So they try to inflate it, discount it. It's called a price gouging practice, which made them become one of the most distrusted brands in Australia. Their competitor is Aldi or Aldi, another German supermarket. Aldi became one of the most trusted brands. So the idea of this little table here is that we are going to ensure our customer satisfaction whenever we are engaging in our marketing, branding, or marketing communication. Our customer is our most important stakeholder, and understanding them, their satisfaction, meeting their needs and wants, if even if it means product line extension, we're gonna do that, even if that means that we have to perhaps during a pandemic like situation operate for longer hours. We have to do that. We have to ensure our customer is satisfied, and we deliver what we say, because this trust influences consumer behavior. All those customers that were shopping with Coles and Woolies, they went to the competitor and they started shopping with the competitor, and therefore it ranked as one of the most trusted brands as well. So you lose a lot of your market share and share of voice as well when the customer's trust in your brand loses. So today we look at how, when you are communicating with this customer, what are some of the things you need to keep in mind, and how do consumers learn about your brands? They're generally, when you work in the business, and I know a lot of you already do, you'll see that organizations, firms, they work with an advertising agency. They also work, they are the client, and they also work with media companies. So let's say P&G would have an advertising agency that would be Saatchi and Saatchi. And Saatchi would help P&G perhaps roll out a campaign for autumn 2026 for launching their new product line of soups. So they help the clients roll out these marketing and branding campaigns, provide them insights into what is working with this particular target market segment. They're also a point of contact for these different media companies as well. So Saatchi and Saatchi might have tie-ups with 9 News and 7 News to then further promote P&G's and Olay's products. Does that make sense? So generally, you would work either the agency side or you work towards the client side, and then you can work with publishers as well, like media companies too. So it could be your newspapers and could be your magazines and radio as well, not just TV channels. So these are the three major dominant players in marketing, and some of the world's top agencies are DDB, Starcom Media West, OMG, Ogilvy, and you'll see a lot of these really beautiful campaigns that you see around. They come from these agencies, and that's why they are the top agencies, because their work is a class apart. They really think outside of the box, and they really understand the audience and moves them, not just rationally but emotionally, because 50-50% is 50% is intuition and instinct, 50% is more systematic, but a lot of our decisions still are underpinned by emotions, a lot of them. So we need to move our audience. How do we do that? We can do that by advertising to them. Now, do you all think, I'm sure this must have been asked to you guys before in any of your marketing or branding class. Maybe I asked you this before. But do you all think that marketing and advertising are one and the same? Or are they different? As marketing and advertising, are they two different things or the same? Hawk, that's perfect. If it is different, Hawk, do you want to very briefly, you could unmute yourself, of course, or you can write that down in the chat box. Why are they different?
Hey, I think advertising is more. Um, I don't know. Like advertising is almost like a one-dimensional promotion of a
Good
product or a
choice.
service, whereas marketing is like an entire um, system, entire framework of how to coordinate uh, exposure of your service, something like
Mm-hmm.
that. I
Yeah,
actually don't know how to explain marketing.
yeah, that's absolutely fine. If you ever struggle to explain someone what marketing is, just use the 7 P's framework. So price, product, place, promotion, people, physical processes, and physical evidence, to explain that marketing is not just promotions. Marketing is setting a price, creating the best product for your audience, placing it everywhere where your audience would be. You would think about your physical processes to get that product from A to B, whether that's from the manufacturer or the wholesaler to the retailer to the customer. We would also need to think about product, price, place, promotion, people, customer service. You would also need to think about all of that. So marketing is a lot bigger than advertising. Advertising is one function of marketing. Yeah, absolutely. Da. It's really marketing is, so through advertising also we're trying to maintain, create that relationship with our customers. But in marketing we're doing a lot more than that. It's planning, developing, executing, and then evaluating all the different marketing functions. But specifically looking at advertising, it's not as simple as people think. It's not just a TV advertisement. Advertisement also has filters. It influences consumers' attitudes, and consumers' attitude influences their behavior. So you really need to think very carefully about advertising as well. Starting from, how are we communicating? What tone of voice are we taking? Is that consistent with the tone of voice that our brand takes? Can our audience understand it? So if you look at the filters, do they have the ability to understand this message? Would they have the opportunity to understand this message through this particular media? So if you put a out of home advertisement on a bus, would they have the opportunity to see that message on the bus? Maybe, maybe not. Motivation, are they currently in the market for that particular product to meet the, and does this product meet their current consumption needs? If they are not, perhaps, especially for low involvement product, and I'll explain what a low involvement is, if they are not, perhaps we need to repeat our message, so when they are in the market, They can retrieve that information. And if we are top of mind, hopefully they choose us over our competitors. But it's not just motivation, opportunity, ability of your content, scheduling, and repetition, but it's also, do they have favorable attitude towards our brand? What kind of beliefs and knowledge, that is cognition, what kind of beliefs and knowledge do they have about our product? So Toyota is, or Volvo rather, Volvo is synonymous with safety. That's a cognitive attitude. That's a cognitive evaluation. Affect is, how do they feel about it? I love Volvo. I hate Volvo. I am neutral towards Volvo. That's affect. How do they feel about it? And then what kind of an experience have they had around our product? That advertising input filtered by MOA, influencing consumers' attitude, will influence their behavior. Do they make, do they choose our product? Do they consume it? And are they repeatedly purchasing it? And as we know, that loyalty is not just repeated purchase behavior, but it is a lot deeper than that, where consumers take out time and resources to engage with your brand, the active, intense, loyal relationship that we looked at in the brand resonance pyramid model. And are we become a part of their habit? If I want to buy toothpaste, I'm just always reaching out for Colgate. I'm not even thinking about Pepsodent. I'm not even thinking about Sensodyne. A lot of that is impacted by top of mind awareness. So we always want to be in consumers' top of mind. If I think of shoes, I'm always buying Nike. I'm not even thinking much. There's also another filter to it, that is the involvement with the product categories that we will discuss in just a few more slides. So, motivation, opportunity, ability is there. Involvement would also influence that communication process. Now, these models, they were designed to explain how do consumer move from that unawareness to awareness to actually choosing us. AIDA model that also has influenced marketing funnels. So if I could actually maybe show you the AIDA model picture, you'll be able to see the parallels between how a marketing funnel looks like and how the AIDA model looks like. So that's on your right hand side is attention, interest, desire, and action. So you start with a lot, you narrow it down further to where they convert, and hopefully the next stage is loyalty. So the AIDA model said that for a salesperson to get the customer to take an action, they first need to get their attention. Now, AIDA can be applied for any product as well, not just salesperson. You need to first get their attention, arouse an interest to, I want to know more about this product, create a desire to, I would like to own the product, and then get them to purchase the product. So your consumer has to move through those stages. However, AIDA doesn't say that this needs to happen one by one. They say it could happen through one print advertisement, it could happen through one TV advertisement, but hierarchy of effects says, hang on, that purchase takes time. Consumers need to move through these stages: awareness, knowledge, liking, preference, conviction, one by one, and then they make purchase, which is quite fair. You need to first create awareness. So perhaps your out of home advertisement creates awareness, then your TV advertisement builds knowledge, then your print advertisement increases liking, your influencer marketing influences preferences and conviction, and then they purchase. Innovation adoption model, on the other hand, talks about diffusion of innovation, such as diffusion of adopting robotics in services marketing. So, for that to happen, consumers need to be first aware about it. You need to arouse interest. They will evaluate between getting services from a human being versus a service robot. They might try it before they actually take an action. Really, I mean, for technology, you want to try it. And so, a lot of the products and services that you see, you always get that trial opportunity. Try and see if you'd like to buy it. So, it boosts their conviction, adoption. Information processing says that when you are processing all of that information. Another stage added there is that they also need to retain that information, right? Not every single time I'm in the market to purchase a car. However, all the touch points that I have with Toyota, they should ensure that they are top of mind, that they are in my top of mind, that information is retained, hopefully in the short term memory, but also long term memory. So when I do buy that car, I can retrieve that information. I can be like, oh, yes, I saw Toyota's launch the new car. So, retention is incredibly important as well when it comes to influencing consumer behavior through advertisements or marketing communication as well, not just advertising, through marketing communication. So, these four models that explain how consumer move from unawareness to awareness. However, like I said, it is also influenced by involvement because sometimes they perhaps don't need to retain it. If it is a low involvement product completely, like purchasing milk, they go to the store, they purchase milk, they're like, oh, I don't like the taste of it, effective, and then they form some beliefs and knowledge. Let me see where the milk is from. Is this goat milk or is this cow milk or is this buffalo milk? Cognitive. So if you see the on the left hand side at the bottom, there's dissonance attribution model and low. And there's also on the right hand side, low involvement model. So if they are not that involved in the process, is okay, it's not high risk. I don't need to think much about it. It's gonna go from uh, depending on product differentiation actually, so there's another metric there, but it's going to go from either taking an action and then forming the feeling, or okay, I do know a little bit about it, let me just buy it and then form some feeling. Dissonance specifically says, I say, whose name can I see here? I tell Lin Nguyen that Lin, you should just get Michelin tires. I influenced their decision based on the non-media source, Lin, and dissonance attribution model. Lin bought those tires. Now Lin does think that, oh, I made a great choice. To reduce any dissonance or dissatisfaction with that purchase, now Lin is going to gather all that information that makes her assured that, okay, reassured that I didn't make a bad decision, to reduce any dissatisfaction. And that is what dissonance attribution model is. High involvement means I am engaged in this process. I am investing a lot of money. The risk involved with this is quite high, and my personal relevance is also quite high. The product differentiation is high as well. So let me first learn more about this product, form some feelings, and then purchase. It's a very systematic, rational decision making. And that is what your standard learning hierarchy is, as opposed to low involvement, where if you know at Woolies I can get this full cream milk, I'll go get it. And if I then don't like it, that influences my feelings. That is affective. And dissonance would be, let me buy it because someone suggested it to me. Then I form feelings and then I gather information to reduce any dissonance associated or attributed to that decision. Standard learning hierarchy is for high involvement products like buying TV, buying car, even for traveling. Um, it could be for buying insurance products. You want to know more. And therefore, the advertisements would have a lot of message arguments that you can learn more about this product. You can perhaps agree with some of the arguments, disagree with some of the arguments, maybe go for a test drive, then maybe ask your friends and family, then form some feeling. I think I am liking the B9 Tribeca, and then purchase it. Detailed information needs to be provided for those um, kind of product and product categories. Then your I'll come to dissonance. Then your low involvement, which is completely the opposite, is learn, do, feel. Low consumer involvement, need to buy batteries, need to buy chewing gum. Let me just get whichever one. mass media is really important here, though. Like, whichever one, I would still need to have some awareness about this brand. I do know something about Energizer. I know nothing about Double Mint. So, therefore, if there is a competitor, then I know a little bit more about. Although there are minimal differences, that mass media advertisement told me that Eclipse is great. So I will prefer Eclipse because some level of awareness is still required for consumers to take a decision. Dissonance says, let's get this. Two alternatives are quite similar in quality. I quite like my decision, and then I learn about it. Oh, Visa has continuous monitoring. It has ID theft assistance. It's got verified by Visa. All these things are reassuring me that I took the right decision. So the job of the marketer or advertiser for dissonance attribute is that don't, don't just create awareness and stop at purchase. All those other advertisements post that purchase should also reassure customers that they took the right decision. You need to create that assurity in them. You don't just stop at purchase. And therefore, awareness consideration stages have product promoting ads, influencing consumers' attitude has brand building ads. Trials are boosted by in store promotions, and then we need to continue that. We don't just stop at do. We still show them those brand building ads with those, 5-star or customer testimonials or influencer marketing. We still continuously show them so that they continuously purchase our product. They repeat that process and have good feelings about it as well. Does that make sense, everyone? If you could give me a thumbs up, that would be great. I'll come back to all of these advertisements, but I want to go through the ELM as well. So if it doesn't make sense, I won't move ahead. But if it does make sense, we'll go through ELM framework. So all those, okay, excellent. So all those, your central route, your involvement with the product categories, whether that's high or whether that's low, they are explained by this model, which is called the elaboration likelihood model. Now, elaboration likelihood model says, and this pertains to your detailed information advertisements compared with peripheral cues. Now, what are peripheral cues, you would ask? Peripheral cues are those girls showing double mint or that bunny drumming, holding that drum. Anything that is secondary to your primary message is called peripheral route or peripheral cues. They are generally used, peripheral route processing or peripheral cues are generally used to get the attention of your consumer for low involvement products. Because there's minimal brand differences, so let's use intense music, intense stimuli. You can use celebrities, you can use experts like dentists, you can use typical people, endorsers like you and I, to show that relatability. Once you get their attention, they take an action, and the resultant attitude change is only temporary. Like if Energizer batteries don't work for me this time, my attitude towards Energize, the change in my attitude towards Energizer is only going to be temporary. Perhaps the next instance or one afterwards would be really good. So it's only a temporary attitude change. But for those high involvement product, as per ELM, where your message arguments are there, where you need to really evaluate your choices, your advertisers' arguments. It takes a central route of processing. And when you're so engaged in that decision making process, that standard learning hierarchy is taking place, the resultant attitude change is very enduring. Once I have established that Toyota is not my kind of car, I did not like it, that attitude change will stay until something significant happens. And so we have to be very careful as advertisers and marketers as to how much consumers are involved in that product category for that product, and whether we should take a central route processing or we should take a peripheral route processing underpinned by motivation, opportunity, and consumers' ability. Are they in the market for this particular product? Motivation? Is it appealing to their hedonic needs or not? Do we use a lot of arguments, or do we use peripheral cues like action, music, colorful ads, celebrities? How do we increase the relevance to of the brand to the self? Should we use fear appeal? So fear appeal, humor appeal, guilt appeal, and sex appeal are advertising appeals that are used to get the attention of customers and engage them with that particular marketing communications. Should we increase curiosity about the brand by opening with a suspense or surprise, or using humor or presenting little information? Those are some of the considerations you would need to keep in mind depending on involvement. Then comes opportunity. Should we repeat that brand information? Very critical, very useful for low involvement products. Should we repeat key scenes? Because repetition ensures that they remember it. It will get encoded in their memory. And then finally, ability. Can they understand these pictures we are using? Can they understand and relate to these celebrities? Do they understand the language we are talking it? Or should we present them with words, images, demonstrations, and analogies? Should we provide a context to them so that they understand what we are trying to communicate? So, just like ADA, hierarchy of effects, innovation diffusion theory, ELM also talks about consumers' processing of message and the resultant change in the attitude. Depending on the involvement of customers, their motivation, opportunity, and ability, and also considering the perceived differentiation of the product. Hopefully that helps you understand it. I'll give you one more example for ELM, and that's because it's from my PhD, and that's why I know the theory really well. Is when we wanted to understand how Gen Z is going to whether they will accept the recommendations from a social robot in different service environments. We used ELM to understand that five-star hotels are probably high involvement environments, and your cafes, your everyday cafes, or your takeaway counters are more low involvement environments. So that's how we use ELM to decide what approach should we take in these two different service environments where consumers are engaged at a or involved at quite different levels. Should we take a standard learning hierarchy, or should we create some belief knowledge, get them to act, and then influence their feelings? Or we reduce dissonance, but I think you should try and reduce dissonance anyway. So hopefully that helps you understand um, what kind of ads should be used and how consumers react to those advertisements as well, depending on the stage they are in the decision making process. Now we'll look at some ads. And you guys tell me whether these are product building ads or brand building ads. Remember, product promoting ads look at awareness consideration, brand building ads influence attitudes and repeat. In store promotion influence trial. Okay? So over to you guys. The last time I quit smoking was the first time I used Nicorette. There's some information around it. Take a minute to read it and then tell me, either through the chat section or by unmuting yourself, whether this is a product or a brand ad and why. Is this advertisement a product building ad or a brand building ad? Take a guess. No right or wrong answers. Very good. Oh, Min, do you want to tell us why you think is brand promoting? Yes, very good, Hawk. Remember, brand building is influencing consumers' attitude, and promoting ads create awareness, but also aids consideration, evaluation, not just what my attitude towards Nicorette is, unfavorable or favorable disposition, that is. Lyman, do you want to still go with brand promoting or product promoting? Yes, and so, okay, excellent. You've given me the answer. That's perfect. If I want to quit smoking, I think of Nicorette because it does all of this. Does that tell you more about the product or just the brand? If I want to quit smoking, that's my need. I think about brands and Nicorette comes to my mind because I read all of this information. Is that creating awareness and consideration or just reminding you that, oh, Nicorette is a great brand? Yeah, exactly. And therefore, we are calling it a product promoting ad. When we see the brand building ads, you'll be able to instantaneously tell me that this is brand building ad. Okay. Similarly, we've got here for dixons.co.uk, they create this aura like going to the fashionable street at Oxford, getting off at the fashionable end of Oxford Street, going to this cool technology hall of London's most happening department store, viewing the plasma courtesy of sound and vision technologist in the Marc Jacobs standards, and then go to the website and buy it. So all of this that you see, you can find and go to dixons.co.uk and buy it, creating awareness, consideration. Similarly, for this one as well, it helps you understand. If you even think about the central route of processing versus peripheral route of processing, this is a very central route of processing ad as well because it gives you message arguments. It tells you this is number one seller, number one with beauty editors, number one with dermatologists. It's a retinol cream with multivitamins, SPF 15, anti-wrinkle from Neutrogena. Gives you information about the product as opposed to just a person saying, I like Neutrogena. That would be just a brand building peripheral route of processing advertisement. Doesn't really give you a lot of arguments. Your creation now at McDonald's introducing Create Your Stay awareness stage product building ad. This one though, those were quite simple. This one though, do you think that this particular advertisement works even though there's no headline, there's no subhead, there's no body copy? If it does work, what do you gather from this ad? What kind of knowledge, cognitive, do you gather about this brand? What cognitive beliefs and knowledge do you get about this brand after looking at this ad? And does that work? Yeah, but Dao and Kwang, what cues in the ad? What specific cues in the ad that tell you that you can be strong and confident and that not all vodka is same? What cues tell you that? And do you really need to pay attention and you like, aha, now I get it? It's the wolf in the herd of sheep, absolutely. And so you have to look at the bottle. You look at the bottle, you see a wolf in the herd of sheep, and that tells you this is a class apart. They're all, this is not the same as everybody else in the market. We are quite different. However, what this ad needs you to do is really focus, pay attention to the bottle. So if that customer might be motivated to know about it, but if they don't have the right opportunity, perhaps in a noisy environment, perhaps this is just on a billboard, perhaps this is just a print advertisement, they're flipping through the magazines, it's a long shot. It's going to be really difficult for them to pay attention to that wolf in the herd of sheep. Repeated exposure, though, that's what happens for low involvement product. Repeated exposure can ensure, um, of course, associations need to be considered as well and created as well. But repeated exposure can ensure that, okay, they pay attention, they understand it, and they have this sort of what is called in a very academic languages incongruity resolution, where they're like, aha, oh, I get it. I know what you mean. So when they have that incongruity resolution, that association gets created in their mind as well, that Smirnoff is different makes you wolf in a herd of sheep. Excellent. Now, product building or brand building? Lyman, first I want to ask you though. Do you think this is a product building ad or a brand building ad? It's from Penguin Audiobooks. Yeah, it is, Huang. Yes, absolutely. Hopefully, Lyman thinks the same as well, because what he's saying is that the experience of listening to, yeah, exactly, it is sort of funny, yeah. And I'll come to funny as well. I do want to show you guys a humor appeal ad if I can show you one. You can, if I can find one, I'll show you a humor appeal ad as an advertising appeal in your advertisements in messages. Uh, but it is a brand building ad because the message they're trying to say here is that when you listen to audiobooks on Penguin, the experience is so intimate that it feels like the authors are whispering in your ears. They're talking in your ears, literally. And that is the message they are trying to create in consumers' mind. Similarly, it's really funny too. Humor appeal can really put people in a good mood. When people are in a good mood, they're more likely to take favorable action. Not that humor appeal has any special advantages over any other advertising appeal, but for certain product categories, it works really well to create that positive attitude to put them in a better mood. So just like this Wonder Bra, it says like it like the association that I can create with Wonder Bra swimwear is that even turtles would wear it. And if they can wear it, well, of course you can because they're always underwater. And it helps them swim faster. Very funny as well, fits naturally. Wonder Bra, like peeling the, it's like the peel of the oranges, fits perfectly well, fits very naturally. So creates an association, but also creates a favorable attitude towards the brand without really saying anything. These oranges are the perfect example of peripheral route of processing as based on ELM model because it's peripheral cues. You have to interpret what they are saying. Only the little subtext at the bottom helps you know more about the brand, which is Wonder Bra right here. This is really funny too. Long pleasure condoms, and it shows like this little bomb in this day and age, quite inappropriate, but yeah. FedEx says attitude brand building ad. Sending parcel from FedEx is like sending it from one window to another. You can see the different continents as well. It's that quick, it's that safe, it's that convenient, and it's that accessible. So hopefully all those ad made sense to you guys. And now I think I will give you a 5 minute break because we're going to discuss how to increase persuasion in communication to our audience, because just sending a message, just trying to influence their attitude is not enough. We need to create persuasion, and it's not easy to be persuasive because sometimes consumers might get threatened and they might see your communications as being manipulative, and there's like an entire theory around it which is called inferences of manipulative intent. So Cialdini talks about these 6 principles that really well helps you understand how humans, when they're dealing with humans, These six principles, if you use them in your communication, pieces of communication, marketing communication, they can help boost that persuasion. So let's take a quick five. Should be 216 at your 217 at your end. So at 222, if you guys can be back, we'll resume and we'll watch the video about persuasion techniques explained by Cialdini. All right, hopefully everyone's back. Now we'll look at how to create more persuasion in our communication to our audience. So we've got a principle of reciprocity, that people repay in kind and give what you want to receive. And I think this is a really big one, that you can't just expect your audience to purchase. And those most trusted and most trusted brand list also underpins that you really need to reciprocate your customers' actions towards your organization. Of course, starts with you, then you expect from your customer. And this is what happens in human to human relationships as well. There's also principle of authority, and that is why some of those peripheral cues, like using dentist to promote toothpaste, works really well. If you are an expert in producing, manufacturing the best mobile phones, that very innovative in nature with the latest technology that iPhone does, people are going to defer to your expertise. People like those who like them. This is a really big one as well. Uncover real similarities and offer genuine praise. This is you where you want to really build that relationship with your audience, as opposed to just creating awareness. Consistency, people align with their clear commitments, so make their commitment active, public, and voluntary. And social proof, so huge, so big when it especially comes to Gen Z, is what we found, that whatever actions I'm taking us is significantly influenced by what people around me, my friends, my family, people important to me, think about me doing. So it's called subjective norms as well, that people follow the lead of similar others and their actions are influenced by people around them. And then principle of scarcity, as we saw in the Supreme example, as we've seen in the Labubu example, that people want more of what they can have less of. So highlight your unique benefits. Don't just create a scarcity, but highlight the unique benefits and provide exclusive information. Make them feel like insiders as well. These principles of persuasion are based on those systems of intuition and instinct and rational thinking, that humans are not just making decisions all the time fast unconsciously, but there are those slow conscious effortful decisions. Even if they are fast unconscious automatic, those principles, six principles, would underpin those decision as well. So let's look at what Cialdini has to say about the science of persuasion. Share my sound.
Researchers have been studying the factors that influence us to say yes to the requests of others for over 60 years.
Okay, let me move to another part of the house so that we get better signal. Give me 1 second.
And there can be no doubt that there's a science to how we are persuaded. And a lot of this science is surprising. When making a decision, it would be nice to think that people
Hopefully, the internet will work better here.
consider all the available information in order to guide their thinking. But the reality is very often different. In the increasingly overloaded lives we lead, more than ever, we need shortcuts or rules of thumb to guide our decision making. My own research has identified just 6 of these shortcuts as universals that guide human behavior. They are reciprocity, scarcity, authority, consistency, liking, and consensus. Understanding these shortcuts and employing them in an ethical manner can significantly increase the chances that someone will be persuaded by your request. Let's take a closer look at each in turn.
So, the first universal principle of influence is reciprocity. Simply put, people are obliged to give back to others the form of behavior, gift, or service that they have received first. If a friend invites you to their party, there's an obligation for you to invite them to a future party you are hosting. If a colleague does you a favour, then you owe that colleague a favour. And in the context of a social obligation, people are more likely to say yes to those that they owe. One of the best demonstrations of the principle of reciprocation comes from a series of studies conducted in restaurants. So the last time you visit a restaurant, there's a good chance that the waiter or waitress will have given you a gift. Probably at about the same time that they bring your bill. A liqueur perhaps, or a fortune cookie, or perhaps a simple mint. So here's the question. Does the giving of a mint have any influence over how much tip you're going to leave them? Most people will say no, but that mint can make a surprising difference. In the study, giving diners a single mint at the end of their meal typically increased tips by around 3%. Interestingly, if the gift is doubled and 2 mints are provided, tips don't double. They quadruple, a 14% increase in tips. But perhaps most interestingly of all is the fact that if the waiter provides 1 mint, starts to walk away from the table, but pauses, turns back, and says, "For you nice people, here's an extra mint," tips go through the roof, a 23% increase, influenced not by what was given, but how it was given. So the key to using the principle of reciprocation is to be the first to give and to ensure that what you give is personalized and unexpected.
The second universal principle of persuasion is scarcity. Simply put, people want more of those things they can have less of. When British Airways announced in 2003 that they would no longer be operating the twice-daily London-New York Concorde flight because it had become uneconomical to run, sales the very next day took off. Notice that nothing had changed about the Concorde itself. It certainly didn't fly any faster, the service didn't suddenly get better, and the airfare didn't drop. It had simply become a scarce resource, and as a result, people wanted it more. So when it comes to effectively persuading others using the scarcity principle, the science is clear. It's not enough simply to tell people about the benefits they'll gain if they choose your products and services. You'll also need to point out what is unique about your proposition and what they stand to lose if they fail to consider your proposal.
Our third principle of influence is the principle of authority, the idea that people follow the lead of credible, knowledgeable experts. Physiotherapists, for example, are able to persuade more of their patients to comply with recommended exercise programs if they display their medical diplomas on the walls of their consulting rooms. People are more likely to give change for a parking meter to a complete stranger if that requester wears a uniform rather than casual clothes. What the science is telling us is that it's important to signal to others what makes you a credible, knowledgeable authority before you make your influence attempt. Of course, this can present problems. You can hardly go around telling potential customers how brilliant you are, but you can certainly arrange for someone to do it for you. And surprisingly, the science tells us that it doesn't seem to matter if the person who introduces you is not only connected to you, but also likely to prosper from the introduction themselves. One group of real estate agents were able to increase both the number of property appraisals and the number of subsequent contracts that they wrote by arranging for reception staff who answered customer inquiries to first mention their colleagues' credentials and expertise. So, customers interested in letting a property were told, "Lettings? Let me connect you with Sandra, who has over 15 years' experience letting properties in this area." Customers who wanted more information about selling properties were told, "Speak to Peter, our head of sales. He has over 20 years' experience selling properties. I'll put you through now." The impact of this expert introduction led to a 20% rise in the number of appointments and a 15% increase in the number of signed contracts. Not bad for a small change informed from persuasion science that was both ethical and costless to implement.
The next principle is consistency. People like to be consistent with the things they have previously said or done. Consistency is activated by looking for and asking for small initial commitments that can be made. In one famous set of studies, researchers found, rather unsurprisingly, that very few people would be willing to erect an unsightly wooden board on their front lawn to support a Drive Safely campaign in their neighborhood. However, in a similar neighborhood close by, 4 times as many homeowners indicated that they would be willing to erect this unsightly billboard. Why? Because 10 days previously, they had agreed to place a small postcard in the front window of their home that signaled their support for a Drive Safely campaign. That small card was the initial commitment that led to a 400% increase in a much bigger but still consistent change. So, when seeking to influence using the consistency principle, the detective of influence looks for voluntary, active, and public commitments and ideally gets those commitments in writing. For example, one recent study reduced missed appointments at health centers by 18%, simply by asking the patients rather than the staff to write down appointment details on the future appointment card.
The fifth principle is the principle of liking. People prefer to say yes to those that they like. But what causes one person to like another? Persuasion science tells us that there are 3 important factors. We like people who are similar to us, we like people who pay us compliments, and we like people who cooperate with us towards mutual goals. As more and more of the interactions that we are having take place online, it might be worth asking whether these factors can be employed effectively in, let's say, online negotiations. In a series of negotiation studies carried out between MBA students at 2 well-known business schools, some groups were told, "Time is money, get straight down to business." In this group, around 55% were able to come to an agreement. A second group, however, were told, "Before you begin negotiating, exchange some personal information with each other. Identify a similarity you share in common, then begin negotiating." In this group, 90% of them were able to come to successful and agreeable outcomes that were typically worth 18% more to both parties. So to harness this powerful principle of liking, be sure to look for areas of similarity that you share with others and genuine compliments you could give before you get down to business.
The final principle is consensus. Especially when they are uncertain, people will look to the actions and behaviors of others to determine their own. You may have noticed that hotels often place a small card in bathrooms that attempt to persuade guests to reuse their towels and linen. Most do this by drawing a guest's attention to the benefits that reuse can have on environmental protection. It turns out that this is a pretty effective strategy, leading to around 35% compliance. But could there be an even more effective way? Well, it turns out that about 75% of people who check into a hotel for 4 nights or longer will reuse their towels at some point during their stay. So what would happen if we took a lesson from the principle of consensus and simply included that information on the cards and said that 75% of our guests reuse their towels at some time during their stay, so please do so as well. It turns out that when we do this, towel reuse rises by 26%. Now imagine the next time you stay in a hotel, you saw one of these signs. You picked it up and you read the following message. 75% of people who have stayed in this room have reused their towel. What would you think? Well, here's what you might think. I hope they're not the same towels. And like most people, you'd probably think that this sign will have no influence on your behavior whatsoever. But it turns out that changing just a few words on a sign to honestly point out what comparable previous guests have done was the single most effective message, leading to a 33% increase in reuse. So, the science is telling us that rather than relying on our own ability to persuade others, we can point to what many others are already doing, especially many similar others.
So there we have it, 6 scientifically validated principles of persuasion that provide for small, practical, often costless changes that can lead to big differences in your ability to influence and persuade others in an entirely ethical way. They are the secrets from the science of.
Alright, guys, hopefully that helped you guys. I will also share the link to this particular video. My laptop's hung, so hopefully you can hear me. I'll also share the link to this particular video with you all in the chat so you can watch this in your own time or save it in future if you want to go back and revise these 6 principles or the science of persuasion. I think we also saw a bit of injunctive norms and descriptive norms that we spoke about 2 to 3 weeks back in the science of persuasion. So really, really a good video. But persuasion, I'm gonna just wait for this to, yes, finally. But persuasion is not the only thing. We also need to think about sharing our content with other people so that we can increase awareness. They talk about it with other people. So we'll also see some principles of sharing that can make our content reach a wider audience than if you just looked at persuasion, just persuading your current target market segment. Okay, so Dove creams your skin while you wash is trying to persuade you of the benefits that it's got that 1/4 cleansing cream for you to be able to believe with those kind of claims. We also try to add some more humanistic characteristics to the product, especially non intangible products. Treated rough, it cries. So it's adding those anthropomorphic features to the hair that it feels like you, just like it's happiest when it's cared for, just like you are happiest when it's cared for. So humanizing the brand can also increase that persuasion. And then the final thing is giving people a reason to do something, as based on research has been found to increase that persuasion as well. For example, they had these 3 different experiments where this particular researcher gave said these 3 sentences to break a queue, skip the queue, and then go to the front. They said, "Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the Xerox machine? May I use the Xerox machine because I'm in a rush? And may I use the Xerox machine because I have to make some copies?" Well, what are you there for anyway? Xerox machine helps you make copies. But just because they gave a reason, even though it was not as legit as "I am in a rush," the number of people who let them cut the queue and go to the front was a lot higher than "may I use the Xerox machine." So giving a reason can trigger people to take a specific action as well, persuade them to take a specific action as well. But like I said, persuasion is not the only thing. We also need to ensure that people are talking about it with others. Could be me telling you about Canva, for example. I am they're not paying me to do it, right? It is because I like the brand. So how can we boost that sharing? We can do that by adopting the principles of social currency, triggers, emotion, public, practical, value, and stories. So we've got, sorry, it got weirded out again. So we've got those 6 principles for sharing, because content without sharing is nothing. You could create the best of content. Coca-Cola could create the best of content, but if people didn't like that content and didn't want to share it with anyone, it's not going to be as effective. You're spinning your wheels. So combination of content as well as social networking, especially in this day and age, as we've seen for MCO Beauty, the brand, the cosmetic brand that I've showed you in Australia on TikTok, link networking, PR and gaining editorial visibility, as well as viral and individual link solicitations all work together synergistically. Building a community of your consumers, and that is why you see roles like community managers as well, for social media community managers. So building a community of consumers of your content, as well as the relationship with the media in your industry, your distribution network, is important to get the most value out of creating great content. So what about social currency? Social currency says craft messages that help customers achieve desired impressions, find their inner remarkability, and make people feel like insiders. Leverage game mechanics. It's like those MCO Beauty TikTok videos, right? That or those emails that I get from so many different organizations across different product categories that, hey, this is especially for VIP customers, or this is specifically for you and no one else knows. Get first access, get early access. Or when you open the bottles, you see these little real facts written underneath. Designer brands, private sale pricing, members only, please don't tell anyone else, this is a secret. All those are making people feel special, that, oh, it's exclusively for me. So if you craft messages that help customers achieve those desired impressions, that, oh, it's just me, they only shared it with me, and then they tell it to someone else, they feel special, makes them feel like an insider. That can boost your sharing. There's also triggers. Breakfast, breakfast cereal, cereal with cereals, honey nut Cheerios. So, design products and ideas that frequently are triggered by the environment. This is huge for those mental associative networks that we saw in the first class. McDonald's, fast food, convenience, going out for a night out with my friends. I would be back at 1 a.m. 1 a.m., what store would be open? McDonald's open 24/7. But they exaggerated the claim by saying 25/7, remember? So, create triggers so that when consumers are in that environment, they think of your product, they think of your particular brand. I want a break, I need a dessert, I'm having black coffee, I need something with it. Have a Kit Kat, a break's best friend, a black coffee and a Kit Kat. So triggered by their environment. But also try and move them. Like I said, even your rational decision has some emotions involved in them. And when we care, we share about people. And a lot of donations, non-profit organizations, contribution in terms of resources, are they use emotions to move customers, to persuade them, to ask them to share it with the others. So pick the right emotions to evoke and kindle that fire. So if I see this kid, I feel bad, makes me emotional. So teacher had helped him escape poverty and violence through music, and I'm like, okay, if I'm a teacher, can I help someone else like that? Because I feel really, looking at this 12-year-old kid, it moves me emotionally. But emotions are not just making someone feel guilty, right? Guilt appeal is a big advertising appeal, that you make someone feel like they are transgressing their own moral standards. They're not following their own standards, ethical standards. But there's also, like I said earlier, there's also fear appeal. That if you drink and drive, and if you have your child in the back seat, that's really wrong. It creates fear in people that if you do drink and drive, this could happen. If you, a lot of, let me, sorry, I keep digressing, because Say No to Vape is a public campaign by the New South Wales government that I have seen around a lot, and it does focus a lot on creating or moving, evoking the fear of humor in consumers. So something like this: every vape is a hit to your health. It's a boy, and he's in the hospital, of course, with that little forgot what it's called. You know what, with that thing, medical device. So I forgot what his name is. Oh my gosh. But it's creating fear that if you continue vaping, this could be you, right? So it's evoking emotions to persuade customers. But now, because I thought this was very powerful, and this multiple iterations of this advertisement, both out of home, print, and video on OTT, that I thought, okay, I should share with you guys. So evoked an emotion. For me, it was a different context, but it could evoke emotions in these target market segment, and they might share it with other people. So we can have negative effect and we can have positive effect as well. We can make people laugh. We can make people feel guilty. We can evoke fear in them. We can evoke pride in them that you should buy Veena milk because national pride. You should buy this perfume because it's romantic and it's sexy and it's loving or it's sentimental. So we can evoke a range of different customer emotions through our communication, which can make them more share worthy. Opening happiness, Coca Cola. Coca Cola is synonymous with happiness and it makes you feel happy, just like Clinique would. You can also try and make things public that opening a laptop from the wrong end is a self-correcting problem that only lasts for a few seconds. However, the upside down logo is a problem that lasts indefinitely, so you might be able to create memes out of this. Make things more observable, makes them easier to imitate, which makes them more likely to be popular. I see a lot of this on social networks where someone does something silly, a brand does something silly, and recently it was the McDonald's CEO tasting their new burger. I don't know if you guys have seen that. And the way he tried that burger and the small bite it took, uh, everybody started making memes about it. It was easy to make, it was easier to imitate, and so it spread the word. Obviously, McDonald's became top of mind, but a lot of other brands took that as an advantage to become top of mind as well. If something's built to store, it's built to grow, and you can observe your customers as well and see how they are reacting because ultimately humans like to imitate each other. So if they like something, they're more likely to take a favorable action, remember. But we can also, again, when they are liking something, we can evoke those range of emotions. We can make the private public easily. You can see testicular cancer awareness month. You can see with the walnuts, they're trying to make private public but easier to imitate by anyone. We've then got, if I'm going too fast, you can ask me to slow down. I just want to ensure that we cover everything, especially the creative brief part. And that is why I might sound like a bullet train. But if I'm really fast, please just ask me to slow down, okay? When we are sharing, we're also thinking, when we are trying to increase sharing of our content, we're also trying to see what practical value can they get out of it. So those Emco Beauty videos, you can see that those cosmetic products would act the same as any other. And so it's easy to pass on. There's great value that they offer. For them, it's also the pricing. But highlight the incredible value of what you offer, package content so that people can easily pass it on. They can share it with anybody, especially when it comes to social networking sites. And this, not just as a sharing principle, but for your marketing communication and from a branding standpoint as well. You must create incredible stories around your brand, not a superficial story, a story that people, your target audience, can really connect with. Build your own Trojan horses, embedding products and ideas and stories that people want to tell others. I support. This is another shoe brand, not Nike, but it's called Vija. So Vija sneakers, Vija belt are essentially this brand that creates sneakers in a different way. When I first came to know about it, I thought, oh, it was really easy, there's practical value, but they are mixing social projects, economic justice, and ecological materials. They're using organic cotton for canvas and laces. You get my point. So I thought, what a great story. And even though the shoes are a little bit more on the higher end, I think it um, justify the kind of price they're charging essentially, and where they are available as well, because the story was incredible behind what they are trying to achieve. Similarly, if you see stories around even low involvement products like opening cafes or retail stores or even developing applications to make people's life simpler or to fill a particular customer gap, stories can really help you connect with people. Does all of that make sense? Stories are not just limited to sharing. It really spans all your branding, marketing, communications. Hopefully it does, because the last thing we're going to be looking at is 6M model of marketing communication and how that can help you create creative briefs. Now, creating a creative brief is not as simple as it sounds. And therefore, if you have any questions, please let me know. There are organizations also that specialize in teaching people, training people how to write creative briefs. But if you keep these little points in mind, the ones that we are going through, you should be able to create a good creative brief. We've also got examples that you can always store somewhere in your drive and then refer back to them to see how other organizations have written their creative briefs. So 6M model of marketing communication says that you need to think about your strategic intent before you execute anything. And then we also need to evaluate those impact as well, underpinned by your budget, that is your money. So the 6M that underpin these models of marketing communication are mission, market, message, media, money, and measurement. Now, mission is, what are we trying to achieve? For whom? How? Through which channel? How much money will be spending, and how will we evaluate the impact? Those are the questions, 6 questions you will be asking yourself, even while writing your creative brief. For example, mission for McDonald's communication was that McDonald's hasn't shifted brand relevancy for years. Their goal is to shift this by 8% in 3 months. Why though? Well, because McDonald's have shifted the focus to now quality, service, and value. But they lost a little something along the way, so how can they resurrect the magic of McDonald's? We'll come back to how they did that. So, missions are those objectives, moving brand relevancy. But these objectives should be SMART objectives: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. They should also be tied to your overall organization context. They should not just be standing in isolation from them. They should be specific to your target market and the positioning you are trying to achieve in the market, the competitors' landscape. So, communication then are influenced by your organizational context or mission, target market, for whom, what kind of place are we trying to occupy in our consumers or target market's mind, the different IMC, integrated marketing communication components. So, are we launching this on social media? Are we launching this on TV? But also, how much money do we have? Can we really launch a TV advertisement? If we are a small business, probably very difficult. So, some examples of mission would be marketing objectives and communication objectives. When we look at the budgeting approach, we'll see a very rational approach. And what that rational approach says is that to achieve that sales volume, to achieve our marketing objective, not just communication, communications is one part of marketing. To achieve that sales volume, we need to create brand awareness. We need to influence our consumers' beliefs and attitude. We need to influence the purchase intent, which would then help us increase our sales volume and market share. So, marketing objectives sort of sits like, it's like an umbrella, and underneath you have communication objectives. Communication objectives help you achieve that marketing objectives, and they are derived from marketing objectives as well. So, comms objective guide account executives and ad creators in designing the actual advertising message, which then are derived from overall marketing objectives and help you achieve them as well. For McDonald's, you can see very healthy food. Hang on, what's happening there? How does McDonald's, a burger and fry joint with poor quality and health perceptions, convince customers to forego the places normally associated with great tasting smoothies? If I want to get a smoothie, I'm never going into McDonald's. But how do we create that association? How do we convince them that you should be spending your discretionary income on a product that is brand new territory for this brand, which is known for burgers and fries? Objective is marketing first. Market share. Grow McDonald's share of smoothie category from 0 to 5% by quarter 3 2020. Not just a marketing objective, it's a smart marketing objective. Communication objective. Meet exceed McDonald's benchmark for new product launch awareness and trials. Smart objective because it's got a time and it is measurable as well. Perceptions increase quality perceptions significantly via communication and interaction with a product. That again is your communication objectives. So, objectives in that sense include marketing and communication objectives to as a solution to that challenge that the organization is facing. Some more examples that I won't go through in the class. It's going to be very like reading through it. So I would like you guys to go through this. Also, like I said, you can save these in case you want to refer back to them in the future. But mommy, daddy, like this is for a caravan or a minivan. Their objective was marketing objective, regain lost market share. How much? They could have specified that, so it would have made it smarter. Generate buzz, very communication objective. Increase consideration, communication objective. Achieve a lift in aspirational imagery not normally associated with the minivans, communication objective again. For Coke Zero, this actually, if you guys read this little strategic challenge, you'll be quite surprised, I guarantee. So please read why they had to convince boys, guys, that Coke Zero tastes like Coke and not females or women. So objective for them was Coke Zero's launch. We had to get brand awareness numbers up 6% from previous year for our male target market segment from 18 to 34. That is a very specific objective, very smart communication objective. We had to transfer awareness to trial. That is also, you can say, a communication objectives, and then change the skepticism that this male target audience had around the Coke taste. We've got Wake Up People. This is for energy drink brands and some of those marketing maximize trial repeat during first 4 months of launch would then be accelerating brand awareness would become your communication objectives. Increasing your share in the market category would become your marketing objectives. So in the market, we've got a consumer, and we need to think about consumer journey. Goes without saying, when you are designing anything, any asset, the websites, you're creating in a digital products, you must think about your consumer's journey and customer experience, also called CX, because it is going to influence how consumers interact with you. Back to McDonald's. They had that challenge and they wanted to resurrect the image of McDonald's. For the healthy one, that's the advertisement. Then they came through with that for smoothies and healthy drinks. But how do we resurrect the magic of McDonald's, the brand relevancy? So the big idea that is generally used in a creative brief also to clearly explain why your campaign will work, what is different about it, and why should consumers care about it very succinctly. This says, as McDonald's approaches 40th birthday, they want to use this opportunity to unlock the brand love. What is their big idea? Your favorites backed by popular demand, specifically for Australia. So strategy was to bring back the products demanded most by the fans. That's the McPhee stand shake of fries. They partner with the music show X Factor. This is back in the days. Invited Australians to vote for their favorite party anthems and then created a media first episode. What that strategy also shows you that not only were they able to bring back that nostalgia, create that, resurrect the magic of McDonald's, but they also used multiple media channels to achieve those campaign objectives. And that is what you should do. Because not every media channel would be relevant for your target market segment. But also, a combination of those touch points would always help you achieve your objectives better, more effectively, more efficiently than if you were to just use um, display advertisement, which is more outbound marketing. So, using a combination of these different medias, maybe using interactive, radio, print, TV, just like that Say No to the Vape campaign is doing, using multiple channels. So, I won't miss it. Only because I was looking out of the train, I saw that out of home advertisement. But while I was watching movies on Prime Video, it would just target me. Not that I do vape, I don't, but it was still targeting me because this is a public campaign. So it's targeting everyone to ensure they reduce the use of vape. So using multiple communication touch points can help you achieve your objectives and reach your target audience more effectively. In digital marketing, you would see paid, owned, earned, but also shared media. And shared media has come up not recently, it's been a while now, when social media sharing became quite prominent. So, owned assets are all the assets like your website, your mobile application that you own, and you can control what people come to know about your brand. What do they learn about your brand? How would they feel? Paid is your 7 News, 9 News, affiliate marketing, your display advertisement, everything you're paying for to reach your target market segment. And then we've got our earned media as well. So, earned media are those 7 News where they just pick up your news, where they pick up this iPhone launch, where they pick up this product launch, and they share it with their audience because they think it's newsworthy and pertinent enough for their viewers to know about. Influencers, where they would share it because not they're sponsored or they're paid to do it, but because they think it's a great product. Word of mouth, community blogs, all those are example of earned media where you're not paying for it, you're not really controlling it, but people are just, it's an earned publicity, so to say. So people are just talking about it because product is great. That's why. So we can use a combination of paid, owned, earned, and shared media on social networking side. It's called POES, to reach our target market segment. However, we need, like I said, monies. We need monies to be able to do it. So generally, some organizations might have a mix of two methods, but if a top-down approach only is being looked at, affordability method says whatever, it's quite irrational, but it says sometimes organizations have to do it if they're quite small. Whatever is available, we are going to allocate this to marketing. There's really no guideline, but task performer advertising and promotions are really not considered. Just we can afford, we're going to allocate it. There are sometimes arbitrary allocations that just based on, I think only 10,000 is necessary. Why? What channels to achieve what objectives? That's not really considered, just what is felt to be necessary. Sometimes I'll come to percentage of sales. Sometimes there's comparative parity method, which is whatever my competitors are doing, I'm going to just follow that and use that as a guideline. Percentage of sales gets the equation wrong. It's a good starting point, perhaps, but it gets the equation wrong. It says that you lose weight not because you're exercising. You exercise and therefore you lose weight. Very, other variables constant kind of a thing. So if you're not losing weight, don't exercise. So it gets that equation wrong, that marketing leads to increase in sales. If you're not making enough sales, don't engage in marketing. This ignores the fact that marketing, advertising, communication generally has a delayed impact as well, that it eventually leads to sale. Because AIDA, hierarchy of effects, says consumers have to move through those stages before they're actually purchasing your products. So it's based on sales of the product that low sales is equals to small budget. No, low sales means maybe you need to target, maybe you need to communicate better with your audience, maybe you need to persuade them better. And therefore, that rational method I was talking about is the bottom up approach of objective and task method. That first think about, do we need to increase our awareness to increase our market share? So, what strategies do we need to engage in? And then estimate the cost with these tasks. More bottom up approach and a more rational approach as well. And then finally, once you have run a campaign, once you've completed a campaign, you then need to think about, did we achieve our objectives? Were we able to achieve our desired impressions? Were we able to achieve that desired impact? And that comes with evaluation of your marketing communication. So you can target each of those stages, those cognitive, affective, cognitive learning stages, and then look at measures specifically associated with those stages, such as cognitive could look at evaluating the attention, awareness, comprehension, perception. You might want to look at bounce rates. You might want to look at unique visitors versus return visitors. You might want to look at doing a sentiment analysis to check the effect, interest, desire, liking, preference, attitude. And then cognitive, you can look at your sales, you can look at repeat purchase rate, you can look at how many people are sharing it with other people as well. So I will give you a code, and then you sign up and create a bank account. So we also need to always ensure that we are measuring our efforts, just like we always do with anything we do in life. We need to evaluate how well our strategy was executed. So communication message is one of the most important components of the integrated marketing communication program. It is the ability to generate fresh, unique, appropriate selling ideas that can be used as solution to consumers' pain points. Strategy, proposition to customers, your big idea that we put in creative briefs, and you will see that with the Dumb Ways to Die campaign. Execution involves those strategic execution, like using fear, humor, guilt, sex appeal, or even nostalgia appeal, pride appeal, uh, yeah, any positive or negative emotions can be evoked, but those are generally the kind of appeals that are used as advertising appeals. And then we evaluate them, because the idea is to not just move product, but move people. We're not just selling, just talking to audience. We are talking with them, not to them. We're talking with them. We're building a bond with them. We don't, like, as customer, as the 24 of us, we don't want to be bombarded with all this information. We want to be entertained, inspired. We want to know what is original about you. We want to see how your ad, what kind of details does your ad have? Can we understand them? Can we connect with them? We also, as a marketer and advertiser, need to ensure that your content, that Say No to the Vape campaign, can be moved from out of home to print to videos on OTT. Weird connections that people are making. It should be more natural, more intuitive as well, and have some sort of artistic value. And this is what Coca-Cola adopted in 2020, that they said, let's move from just creative excellence to content excellence. Yes, it's good to think outside of the box. But now we have social media. Customers' attention span obviously has shortened, but they also need to be entertained and inspired all the time. So let's think about creating content that can be transferred across these different mediums, translate back to our organizational objectives, but also engage in storytelling, getting customers to share it with other people. So, liquid content, dynamic storytelling, iterative production process, where 70% of the content is going to be just like your low risk social post, 20% is going to be really engaging with specific audience, and 10% is going to be that really high risk, high reward content that makes your brand iconic, just like Budweiser did with that Lizards and WhatsApp campaign. And so Coca-Cola moved from creative to content excellence because they thought we really need to think about that flexibility and fluidity around how content moves from one channel to another while maintaining cohesiveness and coherence around that storytelling and connecting back, linking back to we want to make people happy. How? We're going to make them happy by me giving a Coca-Cola bottle with each one of your name on it, increasing shareworthiness of our content as well. Hopefully that made sense. There's a whole video on Coca-Cola's content and creative excellence, how they move from creative to content excellence on YouTube that you can watch to be more inspired. Any questions, guys? It feels like I've been talking for at least 100 years, if not 200. It's just me talking, so hopefully that all made sense. Oh yeah, of course, Noon. Fam, that happens. That's absolutely normal. You would want to then see what is not leading to the desired impression, and generally organizations would do A/B testing to see which iteration of the advertisement or the campaign would work better, or you might want to either pull off the campaign completely if it's performing really really badly and do another iteration of it. Sometimes after a few days you might not get it, but if you a campaign period is usually 4 weeks, so you might want to stay at least 2 weeks. If it still doesn't work, then people take corrective action. They might change the tone, they might change the context, they might change the medium, that is the channel they are using it. If TV is not working, let's try on socials, try on OOH. So you work around it. You would have to take a corrective action. And that's the whole point of continuous monitoring of a campaign as well. Does that make sense? It's a very agile methodology that organizations use now, not that let's keep it for 4 weeks and that's it. In an agile methodology, you would have to work. Lai, that's a really good question. How would you measure perception or a desire? So, market research can help you understand those perception and desires. Sentiment analysis is looking at all the pieces of communication around your audience and that your audience is engaging in, putting that through a machine learning system or a software and seeing if it's positive, neutral, or negative can help you understand those favorable, unfavorable attitudes. Sometimes you might have to survey your customers as well, and as um, pedantic and as difficult it sounds, the very common strategies that organizations use to survey customers. Tell us how you feel. Tell us how you felt about our new product when even you purchase them. So they're collected quite frequently. And then for desire, it could be just looking at did they click through that CTA button? Did they really come down into that funnel from awareness to actually engaging with our owned assets like our blogs, website, social media pages? So, looking at those click through rates, not just for advertisements, but clicking through your website, through your owned assets can also help you understand if the desire is being really created. They might ask you questions, they might reach out to your customer service, they might talk about it on social media, leave comments. You would have to look at those things. Does that make sense, guys? Nguyen Pham and Lai Min? Awesome. You would have to then think because we never use just one media channel, we use a mix of different touch points. So you would have to think about those specific touch points and how to measure them. And then, of course, you can optimize them. That's the whole point of continuous evaluation, continuous measurement, agile methodologies is that you're continuously doing it and then you try and optimize the results specific to those media channels for that particular asset. All right, that's really good questions. Good that you guys are thinking about them. The final document in which you would mention those KPIs and those metrics would be your creative brief. Your creative brief is going to outline that problem, that challenge you're trying to solve. Um, what do consumers think about right now? What do you want them to think? What objectives are you trying to achieve? Who is this audience you're talking to? What's your USP? What is that one single point of communication you want them to remember from that entire campaign? What kind of advertising appeal, theme are we gonna be using? Any supporting information or and the schedule of what is needed and when is it needed? So this is an example from Chakori that wanted to launch essentially, you can go through the whole creative brief, but they wanted to launch this new line of jewelry. So that's what their target market was, women aged 25 to 49, household income level. So demographic, but also psychographics that they're in the market for fashion jewelry for self or as a gift for someone special. What do they currently think? What do we want them to think? Why should they believe that? Reasons to believe are also used sometimes. Any tonality or creative considerations. So the considerations said that they should be able to see that variety of product imagery, and the resultant ad was you can see a ring, you can see earrings, you can see a bracelet, you can see the stones that are used in to showcase those variety of products they can get within that price range. So really good print ad that was created on the based on the creative brief. We've also got one for Penguin Books, which is not for us as consumers. It is really for authors. So you can go what the challenge was and how they were able to create this really integrated marketing communication campaigns. Also arouses curiosity as to why there are these two arrows, why are these letters written, love letters, always read the label. It essentially tried to create the campaign to get more authors, more successful authors on their list, and for those authors to publish with Penguin Books. So some of those creative decision filters you would need to consider in your brief are brand filter. Always have a brand filter to ensure there's synergy across the pieces of communication and that you're being cohesive as well. Are the brand benefits compelling? Is expression of brand symbolism appropriate for this particular product context? Will the ad resonate with our target market's culture and the audience? Motivation, opportunity, ability. Is it engaging, simple, original, creative? Does it integrate product into a story? The sharing principles. And then finally, effective extension of campaign equity. That is, is it fluid? Is it liquid in Coca-Cola's term? Is it liquid content that can be shared across different media channels as well? So dumb ways to die. I am pretty damn sure that you guys would have heard of this campaign. A lot of my other students have also played the game around Dumb Ways to Die campaign. Yeah, exactly. A lot of them have played this. So I'm sure you know about this campaign. But why it was so successful is the kind of strategic execution that it took for a rather serious topic, which is preventing injuries on train stations. So their chat Yeah, it is surprising, but it's so fun. Like it's so catchy. It Once I hear it every semester, it stays in my mind for a long time. Like for a long time, I can't get the song out of my mind. So it's actually really catchy and it sticks. Um, how do you get young people to be safe around trains? Make it the dumbest way to die. Dumb Ways to Die is a real safety campaign that became a cultural phenomena, generating millions of hours of engagement with a message in a way that people least expected because you expect, where is our, do you expect these kind of serious messages, which are public safety announcements, right? You don't expect dumb ways to die. And you can really see that contrast in every vape is a hit to your health. Oh my, when I was vaping, this is what happened to me. Very serious. Fear appeal is being used. But this used humor appeal, a slice of life kind of animation. So communication challenge was they did everything. People just were not listening. They were just not being safe around the trains. Whether they delivered instructions over the train loudspeaker, but we have our headphones in, so who's listening to the instructions? The Metro Trains Melbourne was increasingly concerned about the number of passenger related accidents. It was hard to reach a young, skeptical audience they still feel, I think, who often believe they are invincible. Budget was low, $200,000. So the creative brief summary was to make something invisible visible. There were accidents and deaths on the system due to unthinking carelessness. No one was thinking about being careless around the trains could actually get you hurt. So the brief was to talk about to a broad cross section, mostly young people, to put the idea of rail safety on the agenda for them and to make it part of the discussion. The brief was to try to do something that would actually work because nothing really had worked, nothing like those serious public safety campaigns. So they used how they made them feel happy, they made them laugh, they used music, peripheral cue, okay, peripheral cue, animation, peripheral cue, slice of life, execution, and storytelling. For a message that generally would require a central route of processing, they use peripheral route of processing, but still got the idea, still got the campaign creative, they still hit the creative brief. So that's how the storyboard looked like. So many parodies were made, games were made. Like Fam has said, they've also played the game. I'll show you what the campaign looks, and of course, it succeeded. Of course, it succeeded. So let's look at Dumb Ways to Die. And hopefully, none of you guys engage in any of these dumb things. So fingers crossed. Oh yeah, 100%, fam. I agree.
Set fire to your hair, poke a stick at a grizzly bear, eat medicine that's out of date, use your private parts as piranha bait. Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Get your toast out with a fork, do your own electrical work, teach yourself how to fly, eat a 2-week-old unrefrigerated pie. Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Invite a psycho killer inside, scratch a drug dealer's brand new ride. Take your helmet off in outer space, use a clothes dryer as a hiding place. Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Keep a rattlesnake as a pet, sell both your kidneys on the internet. Eat a tube of super glue. I wonder, what's this red button do? Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Dress up like a moose during hunting season, disturb a nest of wasps for no good reason. Stand on the edge of a train station platform, drive around the boom gates at a level crossing, run across the tracks between the platforms. They may not rhyme, but they're quite possibly dumbest ways to die. Dumbest ways to die. Dumbest ways to die. So many dumb ways to die.
Of course, guys, that campaign succeeded. We all know that. But that's it for today, and it's over and out from me. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in, for being engaging, for being such awesome students. Um, I loved the whole semester, even though we had 1 month break. I still loved our time. Um, and I get to learn every single class from you all. So thank you so much. All the best. Always remember a customer is a human, so treat them like a human, like not like a product or a target market. Treat them like a human. All right? Thank you, everyone, and hopefully I get to see you someday in Vietnam or in Australia.
Awesome. Thank you, Isha.
Thanks, Haq.
All right.
Hope
See
to
ya.
see you in the next
Bye,
subject.
everyone. Thank you, Lynn.